Welcome to Dead Man Talking. Tonight's show is an incredibly scary, chilling, paranormal haunting set in Carolina, and I think this is going to bring some nightmares to some of you guys out there, if not some daymares, have you questioning what was that creak or bang or possible whisper coming from your basement. Without further ado, guys, let's get into tonight's story, entitled Western Carolina Haunting. Let's get straight into that. I'm finally getting around to sharing my ghost story after several friends insisting that I share on Reddit. Here it goes. I moved from Orlando, Florida to Western North Carolina with my parents back in 2002. Specifically, a small town named Swannanoa, just east of Asheville. We rented a 3-bedroom split-level house that had a massive backyard with a very old barn in the back. The house was situated on large sloping hills, or as I would say, a mini mountain. I lived in this house for almost 2 years with my parents and 3-year-old brother. I was around 20 or 21 at the time. From the day we moved in, my mum and I had a weird feeling about the energy of the house, which, of course, we didn't say to each other or for any other person for many months after. It was difficult to explain the sensation I had in that house, and I can best explain it as never feeling alone. As if you could feel someone or something in any given room with you. Kinda like how if someone's entered a room that you're in and you just sense their presence without having to actually see them in there. The first paranormal occurrence I remember was when my mum was in the kitchen cooking. We had a large island in the middle of the kitchen which my mum had just brewed and placed a large pitcher of tea on. I recall seeing the pitcher of tea sitting on the middle of the island as I walked back to my room. A few minutes later though, I heard it glide across the island counter and smash on the ground. It startled the hell out of me, especially for my mum. I ran into the kitchen and she told me that as she heard the pitcher slide on the counter, she turned just in time to watch it glide off the edge of the island counter and fly 6 or 7 feet across the kitchen and smash against the wall. While I was listening to my mum make sense of it all, my stepfather also walked upstairs. He is the world's biggest skeptic. Of course, he laughed and said to my mum, "You must have hit it against the island and sent that thing flying." Then he walked back downstairs. Both my mum and I have had separate paranormal experiences previously in our life. But even with those past experiences, we are still both rational thinkers and try to make sense of the situation before automatically ruling a ghost or spirit made that picture fly across the room, even though we couldn't come up with a logical reason. A few weeks after the picture incident, I was sitting at the computer desk, which was near a large window at the corner of the living room. I had a friend visiting from Florida who was playing video games in my room, which was the first room down the hallway on the right side. While I was on the computer, I glanced over at the window which was on to my left. As I looked over, I noticed a couple of the blinds near the top start to move, but thought nothing of it. A short time later, starting at the top of the blinds, each single blind started moving from top to bottom, as if someone took their finger and went one by one slowly down the blinds, all the way to the last one at the bottom. I sat there, perplexed, watching this, and then got up and ran to tell my friend. He laughed at me and said it was just my mind playing tricks on me. I looked for a possible reason that could have made the blinds do that. I turned the AC on and off to see if that triggered it for some reason. The AC vent was about 4 feet away from the blinds, but it didn't do anything at all. The very next night, our roles were reversed. My friend was burning a CD on the computer while I was on the phone in my room. I heard him yell my name and run into my room, and he said, "I believe you, I believe you. The very same thing just happened to him." I asked both of my parents if they noticed anything like that with the blinds. Guess what? Neither one of them had. Small, odd things would continue to occur almost daily, like doors that were locked mysteriously opening, like the door in our kitchen which led to our porch that wrapped around half of the house. The kitchen was near the back of the house. The porch wrapped from back left corner of the house where the kitchen was at all the way to the middle of the front of the house where the front door areas was at. My parents were sticklers for locking doors, almost like they had an OCD. They would check and double check to make sure doors were always locked. They always have been like that. The kitchen door had a very strong deadbolt and standard knob lock. We seldom ever used that door, so we would keep it locked 99.9% of the time. But that wouldn't stop it from occasionally being found open. Oftentimes you could feel that chill mountain breeze enter the house, and then look into the kitchen to find that door cracked or fully open. One night, as I got home late from work, I parked my car on the side driveway. We had a driveway that veered to the right of the house and an incline just long enough for one of the vehicles. From that spot, you could easily see the barn sitting high up on the slope behind my house. At that time, I hadn't had a chance to explore the barn, mostly because the grass was very high in the backyard and our landlord said he only mowed that area a few times a year. The barn was 2 floors. The first floor was made out of bricks and the second floor and the roof were made out of wood. On that night, I parked my car, got out and looked up at the barn. I noticed what appeared to look like a lantern shining out of the large window on the second story of the barn. It then started moving out of view to the right, and a split second later it went across the opening to the left side, as if someone or something was pacing back and forth, but it was too dark to see anyone. One night, my little brother also noticed a light after looking out of my parents' bedroom window, which faced the backyard barn, and he told my parents about it. I overheard him and rushed in there to tell my parents about it as well. The next day, my stepdad pulled out our lawnmower and mowed a path to the barn. As we walked in, we noticed how dilapidated the barn was. It had some old rusted tools and a broken wooden ladder that led to the second floor. The second floor was completely impossible to get to. The wood up there was mostly all rotted away with only a few boards remaining. If anyone stepped foot up there, they would have fallen right through. My dad's stepdad told me that my brother and I must have seen someone flashing a light up there from somewhere else, because it would be impossible for anybody to get up there. And I saw the barn light shine almost a dozen times while driving there, and my brother too. My girlfriend saw it, and some of my friends also witnessed it one night. It was no flashlight. In February 2003, my grandfather passed away. After the funeral in Florida, I returned back to NC for my school and work, while my parents and brother stayed in Florida to assist my grandmother adjusting with life without her husband of 40+ years. This is when the activity at my house really picked up. One afternoon, I was playing on my drum kit in the basement. We called it a basement, but it was actually the first floor of the house combined with the garage, an open space the size of the entire house. While playing on my drums, I heard someone shout my name into the right of my ear. It scared me so bad that I threw my drumstick straight in the air. I looked around and there was absolutely no one in there with me. At the time, we had 2 beagles. They were both downstairs with me when this happened. I looked over to them and they were standing side by side, whimpering a bit and staring at the wall right in front of me. Safe to say, that spooked the hell out of me. I grabbed my pack of smokes and walked outside for a cigarette, trying to comprehend what I'd heard. That night, I was terrified to sleep in the house by myself. I created a ritual that night that I would follow the next few weeks until my parents returned home. Before bed, I would turn the bathroom light on. The bathroom was directly across the hall from my bedroom. I would then lock my bedroom door, turn the sleep timer on my TV for hours past the point I knew it would take for me to fall asleep. I just didn't want to fall asleep to a silent house. On one night, as I went through my ritual, about an hour after watching TV, I heard a thump and a roll of a ball down my dresser. I had a signed baseball from the 2000 MLB All-Star game that sat on a pedestal it came with. The baseball had fell off the pedestal and hit the dresser and rolled down it onto the floor. As soon as I went to pick it up, my TV shut off, hours before the timer that was set to go off. Both adrenaline and fear kicked in as I tried to find my TV in the dark room. I couldn't find it, so I made my way to the TV, and right before I could reach for it, the TV turned back on, and the stereo in my room also turned on full blast at the very same time. I felt so vulnerable and petrified, but that was nothing compared to what happened a few nights later. We had a blizzard come through around this time, so there was plenty of snow on the ground. One night, I was sitting on my couch watching TV, waiting for my friend to come over for a jam session. As I was watching TV, I started hearing shuffling coming from the base of the stairs that led to the basement. A few minutes later, I heard what happened to be someone run up my stairs, so I jumped up and hid around the corner, waiting to see an intruder robber bust open the door. But nothing happened. After about a minute of waiting, I quietly walked to my room and grabbed my baseball bat. I then walked to the door leading to the basement, opened it really quickly while readying myself for a swing. There was no one there. My dogs, again, started whimpering. I turned on the basement lights and walked halfway down the stairs, where I could view the entire basement and didn't see anyone at all. I went back upstairs, made sure that that door was locked, and continued watching TV. I couldn't figure out what I heard. It was too loud to be my 2 small dogs. Although, a short while later, I heard the same sound, only much, much louder, as if someone had work boots on with weights attached and was running up my stairs. At this point, I was completely convinced that someone had broken into my house. I ran right to the door just as the sound ended, unlocked and opened the door and swung my bat blindly at nothing. I mean absolutely nothing. I dropped that bat so quick, slammed the door shut, grabbed my cigarettes and walked outside to my porch that was covered in snow, wearing just a tank top and shorts. My God, I must have smoked 15 cigarettes on that porch waiting for my friend to get there. Once he arrived, he looked at me like I was crazy. I told him what happened and we went inside to investigate. We both took turns running up the stairs, but we could not mimic those loudness of those steps that I heard. I was completely freaked out at this point. My friend believed me and actually told me some things that he kept to himself that happened to him on different occasions when he stayed over at my house. When he would stay over, he would sleep in my brother's room. He told me that one night while sleeping in that room, his covers were slightly pulled, and a different night the closet door opened slowly and closed abruptly. This struck a chord, as my little brother would also say that his closet would move by itself, but my parents would just brush it off as his imagination. A couple of days later, I would find myself opting to camp out in my GMC Jimmy rather than enter my own home. I pulled up at my house one night after playing pool, around 2-3 AM. As I went to walk up the stairs leading to my porch, I glanced up at my bedroom window and noticed the blinds pulled apart a few inches and what appeared to be a very dark figure in the opening. I froze and then watched the blinds slowly come back together, as if someone or something was looking at me through my own bedroom window. I will never forget that sight. I'm literally having goosebumps typing this out. I turned around, got in my car and drove behind a hotel off aisle 40 near my house, and I slept in that car that night. I didn't care that it was in the 30s that night. I just didn't want to be anywhere near the house that night. The next few days leading up to my parents returning, I stayed with some friends and my girlfriend those nights, only returning to my house a couple of times in a day to feed and walk my dogs. I shared all of my stories with my mum, and she was very receptive, and she also shared some strange things that happened to her and my brother in the house. A few months later, my parents moved back from Florida full time to be closer to my grandma. I stayed in NC but moved in with my uncle in a different town. There are so many more occurrences that I could share during my time living in that house, but those were certainly the highlights which will live with me forever. Wow, hope you guys enjoyed that. I absolutely love everything and anything paranormal. I've had a few ghost experiences, or what I put down to ghosts. If you guys have anything like that would like to share with me, either for the show or just to have a quick chat with me, please do feel free to email over to myself at deadmantalking666@gmail.com. I'd love to hear from you. As ever guys, please do let me know what you think down below. Please do like and share. And remember, be safe, not sorry.